it's actually the scariest part is starting those conversations. Very often, I have found families find that money talk an even scarier conversation to start than the dreaded birds and bees talk, because it is, we never talk about money. That's just something we never do in our family. And so sometimes it is a safer zone to engage a third-party facilitator, whether it's me or it's anybody else, but engaging a third-party facilitator to create a neutral, safe zone to first start having those conversations. And the first step in my engagement is to, what I call interview, but effectively meet with each stakeholder in the family and hear what's on their mind, and then use that to create the agenda for the first meeting. So I once worked with a family where I was engaged ostensibly for a leadership succession planning engagement. The patriarch, the wealth creator, had created this wonderful business. His wife, who was actually his third wife, was very active in the business, but in a very siloed operational role. And his son from his first marriage was also involved in the business, also in a very operational role. And Patriarch was really the only one at the vision level. And so I was engaged to help them think about leadership succession planning. And when I did my pre-meeting interviews with each of the stakeholders, I met not only with each of the three of them, but also the right-hand assistant to the patriarch, and also the family lawyer. And it was fascinating because the three family members all talked about what's going to happen to the business when Dad eventually passes, because he was, I think, close to 80. And hadn't engaged in any succession planning at all. But when I spoke to the two non-family members, and I just asked them a sort of generic question, what's the elephant in the room that everyone's thinking about but nobody's talking about? And the two non-family members said, well, you know, we have enormous respect for this patriarch, this wealth creator, but we have noticed that he's starting to slip in capacity. And that is the big risk to this business. That is, and we talked about risk before, that is the big risk to this business. It's the elephant in the room, nobody's talking about it. And so when I constructed my agenda for the meeting, I just put as an agenda item in very generic, neutral terms, founders, age, and health. And let's talk about that. And so when I got to that point, and I didn't allude to anything else, I just simply said, you know, you're based on your age, you know, health issues start, what's going on that everybody ought to talk about? And I kept it very generic and very non-threatening, and much to everyone's surprise, he opened up and started talking about the doctors he had seen and the tests he had had and the concerns he had. And it took the conversation in an altogether unexpected direction that never would have come up had I not asked the question up front. And so you never kind of know. I had a former colleague who described it as, you know, when you're sort of walking out in the woods somewhere and you see a rock lying on the ground and you pick up the rock, and before you pick it up, it just looks like a rock. But when you pick it up, you see all those creepy crawly things underneath, and that's, you know, just shining the light on them gives the family license to have these conversations that are keeping them up at night.